Hey guys, how are you doing? Today I want to talk about kind of something that has been on my mind for a while, but that I've held off discussing just because I feel like it is a bit of a sensitive subject and I don't want to rile any feathers. The subject of today's video is how I achieved the American dream by leaving the United States, and how I feel that this is going to be a path for many people as the years progress and digital work increases and people are free from the office and free to kind of make decisions that they wouldn't have been able to make before. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I owe, of course, everything to my upbringing in the United States. The fact that I had access to a great education system, a good infrastructure, and I grew up in an upper middle class family that, gave me every opportunity that was possible. At the same time, for me, I realized that America was not the kind of place that I felt like I could really make it in some ways. That cost of living was so expensive. I had gotten into debt by the time I was 18 years old, and I never seemed to be able to get out of debt. I was always in this cycle of kind of wealthy poverty, if that makes any sense, where I was living in a really fabulous way, but it was sort of subsidized by my parents in my early to mid 20s. And that allowed me to pursue my dreams of having a creative lifestyle. But as I said, I just felt like America was not the right place for me. And I started my first business in Asia when I was 22, when I had gone to India, and I fell in love with fabrics and textiles. And ever since then, I had kind of always dreamed about living outside of the United States. Now, that didn't become a reality until I was 27 years old, and I'm going to talk about how that became a reality for me, and I think how other people that I've met along the way in my travels living in Mexico, in Thailand, and in Bali have also found their sense of financial freedom and ease of life by leaving the United States. So some of you may know, if you've watched many of my previous videos, I am the founder and creator of a brand called Tibetan Socks. Tibetan Socks is a brand that sells hand-knit woolen accessories made by women in Nepal, and what started as literally nothing from 20 pairs that I brought back in a suitcase from the Himalayas to the United States now employs over 200 women in Nepal. It's something that I'm extremely proud of, that I really built by myself from nothing. Now, that business, when I started it, I used to have all of the samples, or rather, I used to have all of the socks in my closet. And every time there was an order, I would go to my closet and find that pair of socks, pack it up, write a handwritten note to the customer, and drive to the post office to send it. That's how the business operated for the first year, at least. What changed my life was getting a contract with the Home Shopping Network, and this is something that, I've been in fashion since 18 years old in many different realms. First as a fashion magazine editor in New York, and then as a celebrity stylist in Los Angeles. So I had a lot of connections within this world, and one connection led to another, and I pitched HSN on this product, the Tibetan Socks, that I'd already been selling for a year. They liked it, and they gave me my first contract. And yes, I did go on air to sell it.
And of course, we want you to meet Adrian Field. Adrian is our very special guest, the founder of a wonderful company that really loves to give back, loves to support these wonderful artisans from around the world, and to travel to Nepal to work with the women to create these beautiful socks is really, it has to be a thrill for you, and it's a treat for us to share it with all of you. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Colleen.
It's been 11
I'm thrilled
months.
to be here. It has been...
We've missed you.
Well, we've been working. And I went on air subsequent times to sell these products. Now, this is what gave me the confidence in my business that, okay, finally something is happening and I'm making enough money. Not enough money, mind you, to continue living in Los Angeles, where I was living at the time and where I had just been evicted from my apartment 2 days before I was leaving for a trip to Asia, which included coming to Bali for the very first time. I don't know if this is like a kismet situation, because I had just a friend that had gone to Bali and she loved it, and of course I had read Eat, Pray, Love years before, and it was sort of in my mind as the place that I wanted to visit. That's kind of a side note. I got evicted from my LA apartment 2 days before I was leaving for this 2-month trip to Asia, which included Bali, Nepal, and Thailand. And so it was already in my mind, okay, well, where am I going to live? Rents in LA are ridiculous. The reason that I was evicted was for kind of a bullshit reason that I won't exactly get into, but the underlying reason was that they wanted to raise my rent beyond what they would have been able to do in my lease contract. So for me to have a one-bedroom apartment, which is what I was living in at the time, I would have needed probably $2,200. Again, this is back in, I think, 2017. And then when I added in the expense of everything else in my life there, of just how expensive it is to live in America, and also by that time I was no longer covered on my parents' health insurance plan, and that would have been hundreds of dollars a month, and I had a car, and car insurance was $100 a month because I had just gotten into a car accident. Everything was sort of telling me that I needed to leave the United States. So I had this contract with HSN, and I figured, okay, I really need to scale my business. I can't continue to have these products in my closet. I need to figure out a way to get a distribution system. Ultimately, that led me to Amazon. It led me to FBA. And really, I think, my life to Jeff Bezos and Amazon, because Amazon now makes up a huge percentage of my business. And the fact that I'm able to have Amazon store my products and send it directly to customers, it's what's given me the freedom to live anywhere in the world. And I've met many people along my journey who have also built businesses from FBA, or have built marketing businesses that deal with people who have businesses on FBA, or just different kinds of things like that. For me, while there are things that I really love about the United States and friends that I miss there, it's not a place that I could ever see myself living again, just because the cost of life has gotten so out of control. And when I look at my surroundings here in Bali, and the fact that my entire cost of living, to live in a beautiful villa that I live in, to have staff that looks after me, to live almost a life of retirement and leisure, costs not more than or around $30,000 a year. And that's an amount of money that I would pay just in rent to live in a place like Los Angeles. So there's no comparison, basically, between what the cost of living in America is and what the cost of living in a place like Bali is. And the reason that for me as an entrepreneur, it makes so much more sense to live here or in a place like where I've lived in the past, Thailand or Mexico, is because any amount of money that I pay myself is coming out of my company and is coming out of the company profit. So I would rather pay myself less, have my living expenses be less, and keep money in the company to continue to grow the company. Were I living in a place that was expensive like LA, I would have to pay myself such a high cost that my company would continually lose money, and I don't think that I would be able to have the margins to really sustain myself. So living in a place like Bali has allowed me to have the business that I have, which again supports hundreds of people, but that the overhead would be far too much if I were to live in the West. So for me, I've found, in a sense, my American dream, which to me means being my own boss and having my own company outside of the United States. I want to tell this story just because I want to give other people maybe the hope or the inspiration that you too, I mean, if you are someone who is creative, if you're someone who is entrepreneurial, if you're someone who has grit and gumption, you as well, with some ingenuity and some risk-taking, can create the life for yourself that you dream about. And it might not be in the United States, or it might be in the United States in a different place from where you grew up and where all of your friends and family are. For me, I've never felt like someone who had very strong roots anywhere. I've uprooted myself many times throughout my life, first from New York to Los Angeles, and then Los Angeles to Mexico, Mexico to Thailand, Thailand to Bali, with some other stops all along the way. And I believe that home is just where you feel good, and I don't think that we should limit ourselves by our passport or by our nationality. Now, of course, I'm saying that as a very privileged American with a strong passport, but on the other hand, you know, again, if you're creative, there are ways to move and to stay in other countries for long term. Now, one of the reasons that I actually settled on living in Bali is because it was easier for me than compared to, let's say, Thailand, to stay here long term. And the way that I did that was creating a business here in Bali. I don't want to get too much into the specifics of this because the legality of it changes consistently, and it's become, since I formed my business here, even more kind of actually difficult to do so. But in Thailand, for example, there are schemes where you have to pay, I think, $10,000 to have a visa that would allow you to stay there for a long time. In Mexico, it was very, very easy for me to get a residency, but of course, I didn't really feel at home in Mexico. But my point is, I think that in today's day and age where so many people are able to work from home or able to work remotely, there is a growing interest in being able to reduce your cost of living and increase the quality of your life. And a lot of times that means leaving these Western countries like the United States or Canada or Europe or even Australia and moving to a place where you can create your own dream. So that's all for this video. I just wanted to share a bit of my insight and my story. It's raining pretty heavily now, and I have an appointment to get an IV drip because I haven't been feeling so well today. Thank you guys for watching to the end of this video. I hope everyone is doing well. Take care, and until the next time, I'll see you later.